Good afternoon, YouTube. How are you guys doing today? Today, I want to talk to you guys about another true crime story. We will be revisiting the case of Shanquella Robinson. Today, as a matter of fact, marks the first anniversary of Shanquella Robinson's untimely death, and so I kind of wanted to, revisit that with you guys, right? So first of all, in case you guys may remember, I'm sure everybody heard of this case because it went viral. I think it reminded a lot of us of the Kanika Jenkins case because there were a group of her friends involved. They went on a vacation, and Shanquilla never came back, alive. And so for those reasons, I wanted to discuss it today with you guys. So first off, they are calling. We know that the question still is right to this day because justice has not been served when it comes to the death of Shanquella Robinson. They started calling her friends the Cabo Six. These are the friends that she flew down to Cabo, Mexico with. There were a lot of conflicting stories as to who set up the trip and organized the trip and plans the trip. Everybody thought it was Shanquella. It turns out it was actually not Shanquella, it was Dejanay Jackson. And we now know that Dejanay Jackson is the number one suspect, right? And so let's take a little quick look at the timeline. On April 28th, they arrived in Cabo, Mexico. They made it to their villa. Um, the guy that was cooking them their dinner, they had a chef that night. He said that Shanquilla wasn't looking so happy. She was kind of standoffish. She was by herself, but they were drinking, they were having fun. Later on, there was a video by her friend Khalil, where she was sitting outside in front of the pool by herself. And so that's all we saw of well, also there was another video that Shanquilla made, and in that video, which ended up being her last video, she's trying to find the other people in the villa, and they're all huddled up in a room like they're planning something. And and that was kind of creepy right there. I think that it said a lot about what was really going on. But anyway, she found them, and I guess she just played it off, didn't worry anything about it. But this is what turned out to be her last video, unfortunately. The last video that she shot for I believe Facebook or Instagram, one of them. And so then we know that we have learned from later accounts that a fight ensued the next morning. Now, I don't really call this a fight because Shanquilla was woken up out of her sleep. She was drugged actually out of her sleep. And Dejanay Jackson immediately started fighting her. I mean, like some of us saw the video, and it was just horrible. She wouldn't fight back. Her so-called friends were in the background. One of them was in the background in particular, saying, fight back, Shanquilla. You ain't even gonna pinch the bee or something. You know how you taunt somebody, and she was like, no. And so I'm sure she was afraid. Especially since she was woken up out of her sleep, being pummeled on. People were even suspecting that Dejanay Jackson at one time, they were thinking that Dejanay Jackson may have been a transgender person, but that rumor actually started as it was very malicious, and it was non-factual. Dejanay Jackson is, in fact, we learned later, a female. I guess she's just a really tall, big person or whatever, right? And so, I mean, she beat Shanquella. I mean, at one point in time, you can see in the video where Shanquella's neck is leaning, forward. It's like she can't move. And it's just I felt just we were all horrified by that. And so, but it was confirmed. And the tape was also leaked. The tape was leaked. That's how everybody. That's another thing. That's thank God for social media. Another thing that social media did, they had the tape out. Everybody got to look at the tape. Later on that day, a couple of hours after that happened. They say around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So around almost 2 o'clock, on the 29th, later on the day when that she was pulled out the bed, and she was being beat. Um, the um the what do they call it? The hotel or the resort doctor was called. And so a resort doctor, in case you guys don't remember, is a doctor on call, like for resorts and hotels and things of that nature. So that doctor was called. Um they told the doctor at first that she had drunk too much that night, and so the doctor thought that they were treating her for alcohol poisoning. And when we know now that in fact that was not the case, we know that there was a lot of speculation going around. Also, there was a theory going around that Dejanay Jackson did pull her out the bed, and beat her up really bad, and know she wouldn't fight back. But there was also a rumor going around that allegedly Winter Donovan actually pulled her from the bedroom to the bathroom, and that is what caused her neck to be broke. Now, my theory is her neck was broken during the fight with Dejanay, because you can kind of tell how she's just leaning forward. It appears that she can't move or anything like that. And not only was she fighting her with her fist, she was pulling on her. At one point in time, she kicked her in the face. It was a lot going on. It was like horrible. So, like I said, one theory was that Dejanay Jackson, delivered the fatal blow. But whether she did that or not, because they did dress her, and one account said that the hotel staff found her leaning up against the toilet, right? And so I don't. They said that happened actually before they called the doctor for the hotel, right? So, but evidently after this, they had dressed her and put her in the bathroom, right? So they said that was a part of the timeline. So, like I said, around almost 2 o'clock, they called the hotel doctor, the concierge job doctor. I think that's what they call him. But anyway, they and like I said, they told the concierge doctor, which was a she, that she had drunk too much, the night before. So the doctor at first was treating her for that, and then the report says that the doctor noticed all types of contusions on her and things like that. A little while after that, she went into cardiac arrest. They were administering CPR on her, and this was at this time it was like after 4, I think the timeline was, and she was actually, um, you know, she died like in the hotel room, right? So the police were called. They kept up with their same story, just a whole lot of nonsense going on. They also called her mama. They told her mama that she had, she was sick from alcohol poisoning. Her mama, asked them could they take her to the hospital. They said that, they didn't. They said her mama said, "Can't y'all take her to the hospital?" She got insurance, not realizing that, they're in Mexico and they didn't take American insurance, and they said they didn't have enough money to take Shanquella to the hospital. So, and this is prior. This is, I don't know if it's in between the time of them calling the doctor or if they called the mom first. But anyway, after the doctor got there, after Shanquilla started, having these heart complications and not breathing and things like that, they called for the ambulance. Also, when they called for the ambulance, the police showed up. I know it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot to remember, right? I don't write notes. I'm doing this off the top of my dome, right? So they called so that all of that happened. Now later on that night, a little while after this, between 2 and I think maybe 6, they were dealing with Shanquella, getting her off to the hospital, talking to the police. People were speculating that the police were paid off, and just a whole lot of stuff going on, right? So after that, though, they said they hadn't eaten all day, and they wanted the manager. They asked the manager if they could call a taxi, so that, or Uber or whatever you call it, so they could go get something to eat, right? But in oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. But instead of them going to get something to eat, they asked the taxi driver I don't have that twice. They asked the taxi driver to call to actually take them to a actually take them to the airport. So they got in a taxi instead of them going somewhere else in Cabo. Because they were not supposed to leave till the end of the weekend. They ended up leaving the next day, right? Because Shanquella, you know, yeah, she had been, they had killed her, right? And so they get home, they immediately go to the mom's house. They say they had the suitcases and stuff, right? Now, the Mexican authorities initially said that she died from cardiac arrest, but when they did the autopsy, they said that her death was because of severe spinal cord injury, right, and a broken neck, right? And they said, and of course, after they got a hold to that tape of Dejanay beating her up, they issued an arrest warrant. At first, it was for an unidentified, suspect, right? So, come to find out, after they had the Mexican authorities did the autopsy, and they said that pretty much her neck was broke and her spine was severed. And this is also tantamount by the way that her neck was broke and her spine was severed. They're saying that it is tantamount to they're calling it decapitation, right? It's a form of decapitation. The way her head, everything was still on her body, nothing fell off, but it's a form of decapitation. And that's how severe her injuries were. And I was like, oh my God, when I read that, I was like, ooh, my goodness, that didn't make no sense the way they did that girl, right? So anyway, they head back home from the airport. They say they're going, they know this is making them look even more suspect. By this time the video is out, but the mom and the family still hadn't seen the video, right? The Mexican authorities hadn't even seen the video, right? So they get home, they go directly to the mom house, Khalil, because Khalil was said to be Shanquella's best friend, and we know, just like Kanika, with friends like that, you don't need enemies, right? And so he made the girls go with him. They say they're all at the mom's house crying and acting upset, and still letting the mom think that she passed away from alcohol poisoning, and said they even discussed what they're going to be wearing to the funeral. Just a whole bunch of old madness, right? And so we were getting reports about that. There's a guy in North Carolina. I forget his name right now, but he was doing the YouTube videos. There were several people doing the videos, but the guy in North Carolina, I forget his name. He was just like really close to the family. He did interviews with the mom and the dad, and the sister. Like he was really, like dead on the case, as well as some of the one in particular of the Cabo Six. He was this guy on the end right here. He was making excuses. I got there late. They proved that he didn't get there late. They said he came after the fight. It was proven that he was there before the fight. I mean, he gave this long soliloquy about what he did for Shanquella. Up until the what do you call? I'm gonna call them the EMS, the emergency services, the doctors. Got there, said he gave her mouth to mouth resuscitation. I mean, he was just going on and on and on and on. Right. So this is guy on the far right, Nasir. And so all of that happened. So now after they left the mom house, I don't know how many days it was, but eventually the tape of Dejanay fighting Shanquella got to the parents, right? So after that, a lot of and it has also gotten to the Mexican authorities. By the time it got through to the Mexican authorities issued a warrant for Dejanay Jackson. They didn't know who she was at first. They later found out who she was. They entered. They entered. They put forth an arrest warrant for Dejanay. They wanted the states, the U.S., to extradite Dejanay because they had a warrant, because they had charged her with femicide, right? And so femicide in that country, it's not. I don't think it's considered femicide here. What Dejanay? did to allegedly, should I say, did to Shanquella, but it is considered femicide there. Um, and so it was just a whole lot, right? I'm getting my things mixed up here. And so immigration was contacted. The family had been in contact with immigration. A lot of stuff was happening. They had to get Shanquella's body back to the states. Now, by the time Shanquella's body got back to the states, they had the funeral ceremony for Shanquella. The body had been embalmed. The FBI is still looking into it at this point in time. They're thinking the FBI is going to, launch an investigation, issue an arrest warrant for these people, or at least Dejanay, something. They felt like something was getting ready to happen, right? So the FBI, it seemed like that they were dragging their feet. So they went on and they had Shanquella's funeral. Like I said, her body was embalmed. They had a funeral. And it took them a while. It took the U.S. for a while to figure out what they wanted to do, right? So after Shanquella, after they also performed the autopsy on Shanquella Robinson, but they performed this autopsy um after she had been embalmed, right? So the U.S. Authorities' investigation said that they showed the brain swelling, and they said the cause of death was inconclusive. But that is not what the first autopsy showed. We know what the first autopsy showed, that she died, as a result of a violent death, right? And so, but that autopsy, because they dragged their feet so long, that autopsy was completed after Shanquella had been embalmed, after she had been embalmed, right? And so for that reason, they said that they were not going to there were not going to be any charges to Dejanay or any of the other Cabo Six, because their findings were inconclusive. But we know that they also got the autopsy report from Mexico, and it showed that she had died from a broken neck. They were aware of the fight video, and even with all that information, they still said that they were not going to pursue charges. It says based on the results of the autopsy, and after a careful deliberation and review of the investigative materials, the available evidence, which is the video and stuff, does not support a federal prosecution. I don't see how it couldn't support a federal prosecution, because they have the evidence on video. It is evidence that something happened to that girl, right? But and they called them in to question them at one point in time. They questioned, they released. I guess they had worked on their story by then. I don't know what happened, but the U.S. decided not to prosecute. But nevertheless, Mexico still is willing to not only charge Desjardins, which they already have done, but prosecute her. The only thing about that is that the U.S. has to they have to arrest her here, and they have to extradite her to Mexico, and that way she can stand trial. Mexico can't come into the U.S. and just snatch somebody up, and just take them, and prosecute them. No, they have to. The U.S. Government has to arrest her. So in April, because they said that they weren't going to basically do anything, nobody was going to be charged. This past April, Shanquella's mama, her daddy, a whole lot of her family members and friends, and also the lawyer decided to go to Washington D.C. They went to Washington D.C. They wrote a letter to President Biden, and they identified the suspect. The suspect that they identified was Dejanay Jackson. They identified Dejanay Jackson because she is the one that is beating up Shanquella so violently in the video, right? And so they did that in April. The lawyer, she did several press conferences, and even to this day, they are still, the mom and Shanquella's family is still fighting for justice for Shanquella, but nothing has been done yet. There have been no more talks of extradition or anything. But Mexico, like I said, is willing to prosecute her if they could ever get her back across state lines. And then a lot of us, and I still do, clearly, it seems like this was premeditated, for the fact that they were filming, for the fact that they were huddled in the back room. It's like they were discussing what was going to happen. They were standoffish towards her. I'm sure Shanquella caught a vibe that they were standoffish, you know, and it wasn't even her idea to go on a trip. Come to find out, Khalil asked her to go on that trip with him because these girls, Shanquella wasn't really even close to these girls like that for real, you know. And so it's just, like I said, I wanted to do this because it is the first anniversary of her death. Justice has clearly not been served, and it reminded me so much of the Kanika Jenkins case. And I just wanted to, do this video in remembrance of Shanquella, and the fact that we truly still need justice for Shanquella Robinson, just as we are always J4K, And so, guys, that's why I want to do this video. And also, Miss Dejanay, you know, somebody found this was a while when they were trying to get her fired from her job. People were calling her job at school and everything, trying to get justice for Shanquella any way they could. So she went to Instagram. I believe this is Instagram or Twitter or TikTok. It was somewhere. But this is what she wrote. She said, "First off, my school has not dropped me based on allegations." She said that would be illegal. She said, so I will be a nurse for your info. Okay. And I'm like, girl, are you okay? So she said she's gonna be a nurse regardless. Now I fear for the people that she is going to be you know, being, administering her nursing skills through, cause oh Lord, it might get kind of shaky. They better be real nice to her, not upset her, okay? So anyway, that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And thank you guys so much for supporting me. All you guys that have, subscribed. I'm over 500 subscribers now. And thank you guys so much. Put a comment under the bottom of this video. If it's anything you want to discuss or any comment that you want to make, and I appreciate it. You guys have a nice day. Bye bye. Peace.